No, that's wrong. Dixie Diamonds 367. Metz, 12:49 a.m. Dixie, 9:49 a.m. Addressing his friends from his position high above the Werere, Balloony telepath, well, the Brentzy Brigade knows the Coast Guard is hot on their trail and they're wondering what's going to happen next. Something I assume we'd all like to know? Yes, Mr. Squirrely Cheeky Pie enthused. Are those gray boats the PT boats? And what about that big ship with that nasty man who tried to kill Pilatray on it? What's happening with that boat? Those gray boats are actually called Bay-class patrol boats, Eddie said. Yanks call them PT boats. They can overtake that fishing boat any time they want. They've got plenty of firepower to convince our little Werere crew that they'd best do as they're told. I don't know if Big B's been brave enough to look into the cesspool minds of any of the five of that boat, the Werere, he added, shaking his head. That nun fella's second to none in racist disrespect. Eddie, Lizzie said softly, now's not the time. What do you mean, Eddie? Jerald asked. I mean, I know the humans on that little boat are very bad people, but what's disrespectful about the boat? Ed said, tilting his head upward and shaking. Lizzie's right. Now isn't the time. For now, let's just say that the Werere people were aboriginals that were slaughtered 200 years back by white men, unarmed and slaughtered. Back then, battles between the black fellas and us white Euros happened all the time, but the Werere who were slaughtered were unarmed and camping on land owned by, well, I don't remember his name, but a local white man who lived along Mile Creek. Charles Kilmister, Karen said, her voice icy. Yeah, that's right, Eddie said, nodding vigorously. Kilmister, wow, that should be easy to remember. Not that he did anything wrong, but, well, you know. Thanks, Karen. What? Karen exclaimed. He most certainly did, but... Go ahead and tell this tale. Okay, a perplexed Eddie said. Anyway, they had permission from the landowner. This Kilmister fella, there'd been lots of trouble between the Aboriginals and the whites. White men who started coming here were mostly blokes who'd been convicted of crimes in Great Britain and given the choice of prison or deportation to Australia. Deportation started right in 1788. He gleefully emphasized the date because he'd remembered the factoid. The more white folks who came, the bigger the problem of, well, let's call it race relations grew, he continued. More and more trouble with lots of attacks on both by both. But while there was lots of trouble in general, the Werere were well known around those parts to be friendly. More important is that they were unarmed when they were attacked and brutally butchered. Battles between white and Aboriginals were very common, but this one was a massacre against the unarmed Werere, and that's what that filth nun named his boat. After a group that was murdered, and I bet big money that he didn't name it in tribute. Anyway, I'm off my high horse. It's just been eating at me for a while, and good old Jay here asked right. Right, my cuddly friend? Right, Jerald meowed, jumping onto Eddie's lap. There is one more thing we should share, Karen said. The men who murdered the Werere were brought to trial. At first, for the range wars that had been going on since the deportees had begun arriving. There were actually two trials because despite overwhelming evidence, there were no eyewitness accounts. The jury quickly found them not guilty. Refusing to give up, there was a second trial, a real trial. I don't recall how many men were convicted and executed, but one of those men was Charles Kilmister. And what that group did to the Werere was far more inhumane and revolting than merely murdering them. 7 defendants were executed, including Charles Kilmister. She concluded softly. All right then, Eddie whispered. I stand corrected. In any case, I'm confident none didn't name his boat to honor the murdered Werere. The massacre site is fairly close to Brisbane, Karen said somberly. If I recall correctly, it's roughly 400 km to the southeast of the city. Another chapter in our decidedly checkered history.